Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. If I look like absolute crap, it's because I'm sick. So please bear with me. But in today's video, I want to talk about the QQQ versus the S&P 500. One of the things that I do want to say before I get into the video is one of the things that I don't like about Gabe and why I just really don't want to be bothered with him is if you guys notice, if you watch the videos where him and I talked, Gabe is very condescending. And you got to be very careful with people like that. Gabe comes off like he comes off like when he talks like he's better than you, like he knows more than you, and he's very condescending in that he thinks that nobody else knows anything about stocks except for him. And I just don't rock with that. I think that's terrible. So that's my honest opinion. Like if you watch the interview, Gabe said things to me in my chat where he basically said like, "Do you know what compound interest is?" And I find that extremely insulting. It's like, dude, you're basically asking me if I know about basic financial terms. Like, I wouldn't have a finance channel if I didn't know what compound interest is. I wouldn't have a finance channel if I didn't understand how options work. Like, he's just very condescending. You know, he kept asking me like super basic questions, and he was talking about taxes in my chat. Like, not in the chat, he was talking about taxes in the like the interview we did or whatever. And it's just funny because it's like, dude, there's a bunch of like accountants in the chat, and you're like trying to teach. Like, his problem is he can't have a conversation. Like when you try to have a conversation with him, he'll just start rambling and he automatically goes to teaching. And it's like, dude, we already know this stuff. Like, we don't need you to teach us. Like, some of the people in there know more than you, but like I said, the guy's very condescending. So one of the things that he did say to me, and let me tell you something, it's really hard for me to even try and debate him because I'm thinking in my head, like, what if this guy goes nuts and starts threatening to fight me again and find me and all that crazy stuff he was talking about, like. So that was, and again, I am blaming him because he's just a very condescending person. But part of the blame is on me too because I shouldn't have had him on there. Somebody that's just irrational and unstable like that should have never came on my channel. But I just wanted to throw that out there so you guys know. You definitely want to be careful of somebody that's condescending and basically makes it seem like they know everything and you know nothing, and tries to insinuate that you don't know basic finance terms, which is insane. But what I want to talk about today is one of the things that he brought up. He said, why don't your followers just buy the QQQ? And why do you tell people to buy the SP 500 when the QQQ is better? I want to talk about that because I think rhetoric like that is actually very dangerous. I think it's dangerous to tell people to buy the QQQ. So first we need to understand where I'm coming from with this, right? If you have the time and the knowledge to actually do individual stock picking yourself and actually read the 10Ks and the 10Qs and do deep financial analysis on stocks, then sure, you could do individual stock picking. But most people don't have the time or the knowledge to do individual stock picking. And so for those people, which is the average person, because the average person has kids, works a job, they don't have time to spend hours doing financial analysis on Tesla stock or 3M or Walgreens or something like that. So the average person who just doesn't understand, doesn't know how to really pick stocks, very well the way that like a Warren Buffett could do, they're better off just buying an index fund because with an index fund, you're almost guaranteed a return in the long term. And yeah, you're guaranteed a return in the long term and you don't have to do any research. So let me just go ahead and give my explanation of why I think VOO is better than the QQQ, right? So first off, expense ratio is the number one reason. The QQQ's expense ratio is 0.2%. VOO's expense ratio is 0.04%. That is a 0.16% difference. So you're going to have way less money in your account over time because of the expense ratio. You're probably going to have way more money over time going with VOO, the SP 500 index fund, because the expense ratio is way lower. The other part to it, besides the expense ratio, is the QQQ is 63% technology, while the SPY is 34%. So because of that, you're going to have way less volatility. You're going to have more volatility dealing with the QQQ. You're going to have way less volatility dealing with the SPY. Now, some of those higher returns, because I know that when I talked to Gabe, one of the things he said is the QQQ has outperformed the SPY. And it's like, yes, he's right. The QQQ has outperformed the SPY in the last 10 years. However, some of those higher returns that you get from the QQQ are offset because you have a way higher expense ratio. There's literally a 0.16% difference in expense ratio. So for me personally, I'd rather own VOO, the SP 500, because there's a way smaller expense ratio, which is going to present me with more money over time. Now, Even though QQQ offers potentially higher returns. And again, past performance isn't indicative of future results. So sure, QQQ beat the SP 500 over the last 10 years, but will the QQQ beat the SP 500 over the next 10 years? We really don't know. So I trust the S&P 500 a lot more. Remember, when you're investing, you want to pay the lowest investment fees possible. So again, we go back to that expense ratio. I'd rather own the SP 500, and I think the average retail investor is better off owning the SP 500. And you really want to get an index fund where you're paying the lowest fees possible. So the one with the smallest expense ratio is the one that I think you want to go for. Now, the other key to this is you also get more diversification in the SP 500 because there's 500 stocks in there as opposed to the QQQ where there's only 100 stocks in there. So that's the other thing you get too. And then we go back to this more volatility thing. I mean, if you look, the QQQ, I believe, is down 34%, I believe. I think I'm right on that. The QQQ, I believe, is down. Matter of fact, let me fact check myself, make sure I'm right. Yeah, so the QQQ year to date is down 31%, while the S&P 500 is only down 21% year to date. So again, let's get back to the main reason. If you're an expert stock picker and you really know what you're doing, then fine, you could do what you want. But I think the average retail investor, retail investors, the average ones who just really aren't super knowledgeable about the stock market but really want to build wealth, can't really handle volatility. There's studies out there to show that the average retail investor only holds stocks from 6 to 9 months. They don't even hold stocks for an entire year. And the reason why is because most of them can't handle volatility. So with the S&P 500 index fund, there's a lot less volatility. And we can see this because every other stock is down like 50%. Individual stocks, for the most part, are down 50%. 60%, 70%, all kind of crazy stuff. And the QQQ itself is even down 31%, while the SP is only down 21%. So again, with the QQQ, you have way more volatility, which we know retail investors on average can't handle. So again, my main argument is I think the S&P 500 is for the average person who wants to build wealth, but also doesn't have the time or the knowledge to actually do real research and look into individual stocks and do stock picking. So that's really my whole thing with that. But I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there because I think it's bad advice to tell somebody to buy the QQQ when you have a way higher expense ratio. You're going to make more money over time. Even though the QQQ has performed, the SPY or whatever, the SP 500, your gains get offset. Your gains are going to get offset over time because of the expense ratio. I'm probably going to make more money than somebody in the QQQ because I have a tremendously lower expense ratio. Me buying VOO consistently, my expense ratio is only 0.04%. That gives me more money over time in the long run. So anyway, there's my thoughts with that. That is why, for me personally, my winner, my pick is the VOO. It is the S&P 500. I would rather own the S&P 500 over the QQQ. And again, that's just me. If you have a differing opinion, you could do whatever you want. But I'm going to always give my opinion and talk about what I think is the best investment for investors. So there you guys have it. That'll go and conclude today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.